A little while ago I did a video where I gave a very brief description of the chakra system, and I looked into whereabouts in our body we can feel certain emotions, and I said about how when I was disconnected from myself, this was one of the ways that I was able to understand and to describe what was going on in my body. So this time I wanted to have a look at what can happen when a chakra is out of balance. So in front of me I have the androgynous being. If you've watched the other video, you might be able to see that I've updated it. So let's take a look now at what can happen when each chakra is not running as it should. So when it comes to the first chakra, which is red, and this is to do with survival and trust and financial, so anything that will basically allow us to survive. And when this is running too fast, it can lead to fearfulness, anxiety, sense of being restless. We can lack discipline, we can be underweight, we can have financial difficulties, and we can be disorganized. And when this part of our being is running too slow, so what I've just spoken about is when it's running too fast, because they're like discs in our body that spin round in a certain direction when they're working properly. So when this is not moving fast enough, we can be lazy, tired, can be overweight, we can end up eating too much, we can end up holding on to things, so hoarding. We can be very materialistic and greedy, and we can fear change and end up being addicted to security, so it is then not going to be possible for us to live, because we are going to be completely consumed with our survival needs. And of course this will then affect every other chakra going up. So just like with the foundations of a house, if the foundations are not right, then it's not going to be possible for the rest of it to be working properly. And when this part of us is balanced, we can have good health, we can be grounded, we can trust in ourselves and in life. And the big one is we will feel safe and secure. And of course, if we feel safe and secure, then we can start to think about other things as opposed to merely surviving. So stability, prosperity, and the ability to relax, which of course makes sense, because if we are experiencing a lot of fear and anxiety, then it's not really going to be possible to relax. So moving on now to the second disc, the second chakra. When this part is underactive, it can lead to poor communication skills, and we can end up having a fear of sex, not have a lot of desire, have very little passion or excitement, and so we can end up denying pleasure. We can end up fearing change and be very obstinate in our attitudes. And when this part of us is going too fast, the second chakra, we can be addicted to pleasure. So end up having or escaping into sex. We can end up being excessively sensitive and have overly strong emotions. There can be an invasion of others, and we can be manipulative, overly attached, and emotionally dependent on others. And when this part of us is running in the right way, then we can be emotionally intelligent. We can have the ability to experience pleasure, but with not being too consumed by it. And we can embrace change and have healthy boundaries. So it's clear to see that is an important chakra there when it comes down to survival and boundaries, and to be able to experience pleasure. Because of course there's having too much of it, being a bit of a hedonist. But then there's having very little pleasure, which can be a very bleak existence. So now coming on to the third chakra, which is to do with power. You see here, just before the heart chakra there. On this one, when this part is not spinning fast enough, we can have low energy, very little willpower, poor self-esteem. We can be passive, fearful, poor discipline, emotionally and physically cold. We can have a victim mentality, blaming others for our problems and what is not going right in our life. And we can have poor digestion, and we can be unreliable. So you can see from that of course there is eating dodgy food and taking probiotics, but if there's pain in a part of our body, that can also affect our ability to digest our food and to utilize the nutrients that are going into our body. Because of course it's one thing taking all kinds of supplements, but it's another thing altogether to be able to actually use them. And when this part is running too fast, so it's overactive, we can end up being aggressive, dominating, controlling, can be arrogant. So perhaps with the first one, we can end up having an inferiority complex, but then when it's overreactive, we can end up having a superiority complex. And we can be power hungry, hyperactive, excessively ambitious and competitive. And when this part is running in the right way, we can have a we can experience inner harmony, to be able to accept ourselves, to respect other people and their emotions, to feel connected to others, to be responsible, to be confident, and to be able to meet the challenges of life. And in my experience, I think I might have said this in the other video, as in my experience, the inner child is here and this is where the ego is. So if we have wounds, we have a wounded inner child, a wounded inner children, because there's not just one, then our inner child can cause us to have problems with confidence and digestive problems and all those kinds of things. So now moving up to the fourth chakra, green, to do with love. When this part of us, when this disc is underactive, we can be antisocial, we can withdraw from life, we can be cold, shy, critical, intolerant, judgmental. And through being withdrawn and shy, it's going to be normal then for us to be lonely. We can be depressed. We can fear intimacy and relationships. So just end up having surface level connections. And through this part of us not being in a good way, we can lack empathy. And we can be bitter. And when this part is running too fast, instead of being withdrawn, we can expect too much from others. We can be demanding, jealous, lose ourselves in others, and sacrifice ourselves. So this is the kind of codependent human being who neglects themselves and ends up losing themselves in someone else or other people. And when this part of us is functioning in the right way, then it is possible for us to be compassionate, loving towards others and ourselves, to experience peace and balance. And this can also be a lot easier for us to breathe properly as well, because when there is all the grief in our chest, then that can affect our breathing. So now coming up to the fifth chakra, which is to do with expression. You can just see here, it's like a light blue with the next one I put dark purple there, but that's kind of a dark blue. But coming back to the throat chakra there, when that is underactive, we can have a fear of speaking, we can have a weak voice, it can end up being a challenge for us to put feelings into words. We can be shy, and so basically we can end up holding back and not expressing our truth. And when this part is overactive, we can end up talking too much, talking as a defense. So it's going to be a challenge for us to listen without interrupting. And then we can end up basically talking over others. And this is going to have a negative impact, of course, on our interactions with others. But when this is running in the right way, then we can be a good listener. Our voice can be clear And of course it will be a lot easier for us to express ourselves, whether that is around people or on a piece of paper, so drawing or writing or painting, and we can then express our truth. So moving up now to the dark blue, a sixth chakra to do with perception. When this is underactive, we can have poor vision and memory. We can lack imagination. It can be difficult for us to visualize. It can be a challenge to see the future. And we can also find it hard to recall our dreams. And when this is running too fast, we can end up having hallucinations, nightmares, obsessions, and we can end up having headaches, migraines, and find it difficult to concentrate. So it is then not going to be necessary for us to take magic mushrooms or anything like that, because through this part being out of whack, we will have these hallucinations. And when this part is balanced, then we can have good intuition, good perception. Our imagination can be very good as well. Our memory can be good. Visualizing won't be a challenge, and we will be able to think symbolically and to remember our dreams. And of course, as our dreams can show us what our conscious mind is not able to acknowledge, this can help with our own evolution to interpret our dreams. Obviously there's books where we can do this, but in a lot of cases I've found simply writing them down or putting the story aside and tuning into how I felt can give me all the insight I need. It can be very easy to get distracted in the story and what happened and to get caught up in all of that, but in a lot of cases that's just a way for us to experience feelings that we have pushed down in our waking life. When we're asleep, of course, our head is out of the way and it can all come up. So moving on to the seventh chakra, which is to do with the spiritual, which of course this connects us to the Father Sky, with the red connecting us to Mother Earth. So coming up to this one, when this part of us is underactive, we can be spiritually cynical, find it difficult to learn. We can have rigid belief systems. We can be apathetic. And when it is overactive, we can be overly intellectual, dissociate from our body, experience confusion, and be spiritually addicted. And so when this is balanced, it can allow us to have a sense of spiritual connection, to be open-minded, to have wisdom, to broaden our understanding, to be aware, to perceive and to analyze and assimilate information. So obviously I've mentioned each one individually, but they're all connected, they all influence each other. But through me going through each one individually, it will have given you a rough idea about what is going on. So if you've got a certain challenge in your life, you'll be able to locate the chakra or the chakras that are involved. And the problems usually start right down. So we can experience a certain trauma. During our early years could be a birth trauma. And then these early traumas end up buggering up the whole system. So once these early traumas are dealt with, it can be a lot easier for the rest of our being to integrate, to come together and to work together and to be in alignment. So I hope you found this presentation interesting, and I hope it has given you a greater understanding of yourself.